Thank you very much, Dr. Yahya. So maybe we will come back later on this issue of diaspora engagement and mobilization. But first, to give the floor to each speaker, I'm turning on you, Lace. You in the Techno Park, you do several things. You organize trainings. You boost the tech sector by playing a role a little bit like a cluster. Your mandate is to integrate the tech sector in the global value chain, if I understood well. How do your activities allow to create international connection and facilitate internationalization? Because I know you are also funded by India. So does it facilitate for you this connection to help startups becoming international?
Thank you, Matthias. Did anyone hear about the Palestine Technopark, by the way? Show of hand. Okay. Okay. Very good. Great. It's a pleasure. I think before we talk about internationalization, I think there's a prerequisite that entrepreneurs need to realize to make our lives easier, whether at incubation, acceleration, or tech parks, that the business model has to be born global. شو يعني? In other words, if you want to do a startup, a tech startup, a high growth business model, you have to design it in a way that it can accommodate international market before we even speak about internationalization of your startup, right?
Excuse me, Lace, but according to you, is that true for any startups or for Palestinian startups?
That's true for any startup. And I was going to make reference to similar countries in terms of size, like Estonia, like New Zealand. Whenever they do a tech startup, it is born global, meaning that the business model and technology is geared towards external markets. Because the reason being, they have very limited markets, very similar conditions to our Palestinian context, right? And we need market to be able to scale and to sell and be able to grow these technology startups. So that's a prerequisite, and we haven't seen much of a born global business models, right? And we need to design them, influence them, and know how to create them and improve on producing them as we speak. I think that's one of the lessons that I can share with you on a personal level. Now, if you ask what are the channels to international markets, that's the question really here. What's the channels available to us as Palestinians to access international markets? The ecosystem, we have many incubation programs, we have acceleration programs. There's an upcoming first Technopark in Palestine. And we can say that through, I will use industry jargon and lingo here, there's something called co-incubation, right? Co-incubation is something that I think is a new wave of thing, how we need to address internationalization as incubation programs, is developing networks and developing partnerships with incubation programs in Europe, in North America, or wherever the markets may be, Africa, just the same, to help in internationalization of our startups, or incubator startups. There's also a jargon called soft landing that Matthias has addressed in his opening speech. Soft landing, we're not, the soft landing is another service that can be provided. It can work both ways. We can help international companies come and test their market in Palestine the same way. We can go through the tech parks and science parks through the soft landing services and for our startups to make use of it. Now, there's a real life example at the tech park. There's another channel, a third one, is helping our startups and entrepreneurs participating in contests. And the real life example here is that we supported a project, automating seedling machine, and they have participated in a contest in Turkey, and they've landed first prize, much to my surprise, to be honest. I mean, but they were able to demonstrate that they can pitch, they can demonstrate value, and they've won a one-year incubation service in Turkey through this contest. So that's a third viable channel, and that could be available to our startups. I will conclude with the fourth one, not to take much of the time. There are also pitching events, whether it's by EBN or by International Association of Science Parks. There are networks out there that we need to tap into, and we need to encourage our entrepreneurs to go and pitch and meet more angel investors out there and meet more venture capital out there, because of, there are more advanced ecosystems in the international market that we need to tap into. So that's my first round for addressing some of those channels.
Thank you very much, Laïs. I think it's a good transition, what you explained with probably what will explain Saleh. You were saying that the business plan should be born global. Saleh, you are working as part of growth training and development with very young startups. You do many things. You organize a hackathon. You connect with different innovation support organizations here in Palestine. You are also involved in the Global Entrepreneurship Week. So you know very well as a startups as these first stages of development. Can you explain us more in detail your vision on the first needs of their development, and do you have already some example or success stories in startups supporting from the beginning, which is now international, or who are succeeding in it?
Thank you for Matthias for this. Before I talk about the startups and why I'm supporting them, growth comes after 5 years of experience. I started working for others at the beginning in creating funds like the one in Badr, where we have invested in startups like Imagery, which is now in their third round, funded by Samsung. They work globally now. They will have offices in Arizona, where they do testing for cars without a driver. They have offices in Rawabi, where they do utilize the tech hub to work from there and employ Palestinians. They have another office in Haifa. Having worked for these organizations, and also I've created the Beit Lahem Business Incubator in the South to talk to the community of the South. And because we have found that there are entrepreneurs that they have ideas, but they have no place to go to. They either have to travel to Ramallah, or they just stay where they are and no one to support them. So I have seen work in the North, Center, and South, and I've seen the needs. So I made this organization called Growth Palestine, Namo Palestine. What we do basically is we work with the international organizations for Palestine. Why I do that? We work with the Get in the Ring. It's based in Amsterdam. We work with the Startup Grind in San Francisco. We work with Angel Hack in San Francisco. We work with the Seed Start in Switzerland. We work with the Tech Stars around the world. Why we do this is because simply when I started working with the startups, I've seen that given the obstacles and the challenges we have in the Palestinian market, the only way for success for a startup to go through from the very early stage to be growing is to know what is happening on the other side of the world. So what we do is we basically every around 2 months we do an hackathon in which we bring 100 people from different backgrounds. We make them sit together around 54 hours, sometimes 3 days, 4 days. They talk to each other the first day. They learn about their skills. So we have finance backgrounds, we have technology backgrounds, and we have business backgrounds. We bring in mentors from different backgrounds as well to talk to them. So we end up with the first day that we have teams, people who started knowing each other, brainstorming about ideas. So we start building on that. Then we take them to the second day and third day in intensive programs and workshops during the day until they come up with ideas. Usually we come up with 20 ideas that I have found in the last 5 years. 2 ideas continue to grow, continue to have partners, continue to sell in the market and grow outside. Working with these startups, honestly, we have seen success stories starting with a startup weekend like Mashvisor. Mashvisor was a startup that won a second place in 2013 in Ramallah. Their idea was to create this product for the US market, crazy. No one have imagined that they would sell in the States. And they finished the startup weekend, and there where I decided to work with these ideas when they finish these competition and take them around to the funds and grow them. He put his application online. It's a really interesting story. He put his application online. He said, okay, let me try to see what's going to happen. He started receiving calls from the States about, can you give me more information about your startup? Because the product was not built yet. There when he came to us and he said, what shall I do? Shall I continue? But if I continue, I need certain skills. So here where we found that we still need other skills. You know, we all know that we have gaps in the university level when it comes to technology teaching. I know PITA and the PICTI leaders, Kaskagis, they're doing now focusing on academies, which is much needed for the Palestinian society, that focus in technology. So we had issues in finding skills to complete the team, but we were able to find that. Sometimes by calling Palestinians from diaspora to come and join the Palestinian startup here. So we call, of course, sometimes it would cost a lot of money because Palestinians in Washington or in San Francisco, they have certain standards of living. To bring them to Palestine, you have to accomplish their at least minimum way of living when they come to Palestine. But hopefully we succeeded with this. We have seen as well something very interesting about the successes coming from the companies themselves. I mean, for the last 5 years, I have worked with the startups that were employees at Asal Technologies, at Exalt Technologies, at Safad, where after 4 years of working there, they came to us and they said, Salah, we have an idea. Do you think it's feasible? Do you think can we do it? We personally helped them to a certain point, and then we took them to the other accelerator incubators, where they gave them other services. We have found that an average of 2 companies comes out of these companies. Example, Social Dice comes from Asal Technologies. Social Dice is now in Dubai. Their market is Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and the Gulf. And they have raised funding up to $700,000 in less than 2 years. Another company now I'm working with personally is called Receipt. Receipt, what they are doing is they want to do on point-of-sale solutions around the world. If you go anywhere in the shop, you buy from a Nike store, instead of taking a receipt on paper, you take it paperless through an application. So this will give you the opportunity to do your accountings, know your spendings and expenditures through this application. These guys comes from Infinity Tears from Nablus. And these companies now are trying to support them by saying them, and this is new happening in Palestine, and we're trying to work with these companies to make it continue. That these companies says, okay, you come from our company, you will need space, you will need certain skills. We have it, we will give it to you in return for a certain fees, for example, or certain rental fees. So Palestine, maybe sometimes people say I'm very positive about it, but I am sure, and I have to be, because I'm in Palestine since 2012. I was in Italy for 13 years. I worked in Oracle, I worked in Salesforce. I came with a corporate mind. I shifted to working towards startups. I opened a startup here. Hopefully it's still working. And we have clients like KFC, Pizza Hut, Popeyes, all these franchises. This also was an example for me to see that there's a hope in the startup that they can do things. And we try to support them. We still have many gaps, I have to be honest. Many gaps, many challenges. Soft skills is one of them. Communication skills is one of them. I still hire people to work in startups. I find out that they have problems in how to write an email, how to CC, how to BCC. The basics, we find them there. We try to work them in this gap with growth by taking them in before we do the hackathons or the boot camps. We do sessions about the basics of business to give them the opportunity at least to learn this wherever they go in any other companies. I'm not going to, the last thing I'm going to conclude with is another thing that I see very important for Palestine is exposure. Exposure, exposure, exposure. Why? We are part of a network called Global Entrepreneurship Week. I think يمكن كتير, do you know this logo? This logo is an international logo. It's an international brand. Palestine is part of it since 6 years. We started with 3 people. We had our advisory board 4. We had 5 partners the first year. Now we are 65 partners in Palestine. Proudly I say this. We organize 70 activities in this week. We are competing around the world against 173 countries, and Palestine is nominated 4 times last year. The biggest activities per capita, the best brand of the year about cities last year. This year is going to be Ecosystem Connect. The reason why we brought the Ecosystem Connect, because we have seen through many activities happening through the year that there are many initiatives that sometimes are similar, but not much we know one about the other. So Ecosystem Connect this year will be a way to connect these organizations, these communities together to speak the same language when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship. Thank you.
For me, all right. There's one, I think what differentiates the Technopark actually is that we're introducing a new concept which we believe will bring us closer to international markets. The concept simply has to do with bringing emerging technologies and doing innovation labs around those emerging technologies. And I will mention some of those, a few emerging technologies we're interested in. Any of you heard about augmented and virtual reality? Rebecca here is in the back. She was one of those participants in our boot camps and hackathons. So we believe AR and VR is an up and coming technology. If we start doing some investments in these emerging technologies, we believe that we can catch up with the international community by bringing value, becoming part of the economic value chains of that. The other technology we're interested in at the Tech Park, and we're doing innovation labs for, has to do with blockchain and fintech. And I know this is very close to the heart of Dr. Yahya Silgar, and I have to say I share this with him. I think blockchain is one of those upcoming technologies that will be revolutionize how we do technology and how we do IT. And I'm sure Dr. Yahya can speak more of it, but the idea is these are upcoming technologies. They have not hit mainstream market yet. So the opportunity for us is now to start learning them, preparing ourselves, how to apply them, come up with creative ideas, do startups with them, try to attract outsourcing businesses as a result of learning these technologies. I think that's one way of emerging technologies can bring us closer to international markets. And this is a differentiation factor that such a strategy is being applied by the Tech Park. And I'm sure others will like to see similar models at their own incubation or support programs. And we've started seeing others working on similar way. For example, today we had visitors from Japan. Mr. Naito is here, and he shared with me one key piece of information, that Japan does not have enough developers or software developers, does not have enough talent. And they augment and complement such shortage of talent through developing outsourcing centers offshore, whether it's in Singapore, China, Thailand, and other places. And they are in the look, and they seek developers and resources in emerging technologies, specifically in blockchain. This is what we've heard today. Just imagine if we have, capital, human capital, our human capital is being trained on such emerging technologies that can be a supply, that can, address shortages in countries, whether they're neighboring countries or whether they're in international countries. So the concept here is clear. We have to move forward towards bringing emerging technologies, learning them, and integrating into international economic value chains. As a result of these emerging technologies will bring us closer to international markets.